everybody to Stonehaus Winery. I'm Rob Ramsey, one of the owners here. Talk a little bit about the history of Stonehaus. First and foremost, I want to introduce Mr. Fay Wheeler. Without Mr. Fay, there would not be a wine industry in Tennessee, most likely. He and my father, Bob Ramsey, started the first licensed winery in the state of Tennessee in 1980 called Highland Manor in Jamestown, Tennessee. They actually worked on getting the law passed, which was the Wine and Grape Act of 1977, which would allow for a home winery. The winery opened in 1980. They ran that winery for 10 years. After 10 years, Fay decided he was done with winemaking, which lasted a very short time. And so they started looking for a new winery, a place to have a new winery. And they found this building here in Crossville on beautiful Interstate I-40. We'll lead you on through the winery. This is one of the original walls. We've added on 7 times here at Stonehaus, 5 of which were the last additions we would ever need. So we have a huge maze of a building. But this building had been built as the urban cowboy during the whole Gillies craze. And then it sold to a church. And we bought it from the church. Now what's hilarious is when we bought it from the church, the mechanical bull was still here. I would give anything if we still had that bull. But we've added on several times, updated our tasting room a bit. We'll go through and I'll lead you through the back on how we go about making wine here at Stonehaus, and then we'll talk about some of the favorites. There's 5 different ways to produce a sparkling wine. We're doing it in the tank, similar to a Charmant method, and so we're actually having to fill under pressure. This is a counter pressure filler. It's kind of interesting. The tank is under pressure, and so if you just simply open that valve, you got a giant water hose, or like a fire hose of wine. So you have a chamber that's pressurized to the same pressure as your tank, so that the wine simply flows into it, and then when it goes to the bottle, when Robert presses down, the first thing that happens is it pressurizes the bottle to the same pressure as everything else, and it allows the wine to flow into the bottle, release pressure before he capsules it up. All right, this is where it all begins, back in our lovely warehouse area, but I gotta tell you, there's a lot of wineries that are jealous that we have a crush pad indoors, because with inclement weather, it makes it a lot easier to deal with an inside crush pad. We'll get our grapes in either in lugs, or they'll be picked in lugs and come into macro bins. Goes to the crusher destemmer. Crusher destemmer does exactly what it says. It crushes and destems the grapes. From there, the grapes will be pumped either into the press, or if we're making a red wine, they'll go into a tank where they'll be allowed to sit on the skins for usually 12 to 14 days, give or take. We usually, that's primary fermentation as well. When it is dropped by 10 degrees of Brix, we really feel like it's time to get it off of the skins. And so we'll pump it from the tank into our press and start the whole beautiful process. This is one of our tank farms, if you want to call it that. 3,000 gallon stainless steel tanks, a couple of 1,000 gallon tanks. Our pressurized vessel that we make our sparkling wines in. It's interesting, this single 1,000 gallon pressure vessel costs as much money as those 3,000 gallon tanks all together. Isn't it beautiful? But nice catwalks. We have the ability to access the tanks from above and below. And this is where it will start its journey. The first racking will come into these tanks. Racking is when you simply transfer the clearer juice off of the sediment, and the wine cleans it and clarifies itself that way. And we will rack anywhere from 2 to 3 times during the process, some up to 6 times. Another one of our tank rooms. Now, these are polyethylene tanks. You saw stainless steel before. Many people associate poly tanks with starter wineries or beginners or so forth. Fay Wheeler, our winemaker, and Jan Nix, who's our winemaker as well, they really like these tanks, especially Fay. Fay likes them because they're inexpensive, but they're also light. One person can move one of these tanks by themselves. They also, from a winemaking standpoint, they micro-oxygenate better than stainless steel. So there's certain things about the characteristics of these tanks that Fay prefers. The other thing, I know this sounds crazy, but you can see the wine level. And when you're racking from one tank to the next, instead of trying to see that little bitty sight gauge, you're able to see the actual level in the tank. So there's lots of things to love, lots of things not to love. I don't like them because they've got about a 20-year life cycle. We've been here about 20 years, and so we're having to do some tank replacements and things like that. But They are an integral part of the winemaking process here at Stonehaus, and that's the beautiful thing about wine is everybody does it different, and you taste those differences, and that's what's fun. This is another integral part of the winemaking process here at Stonehaus. This is a cross-flow filtration machine. I don't want to get too technical, but this is the same exact technology as a kidney dialysis machine. It's a single pass membrane filter that will filter down to 0.2 microns in one pass. Now what's important to that as the wine consumer is a lot of our wines are low alcohol, high residual sugar. If there is one yeast cell left in that bottle, it will continue to make alcohol, and it will also continue to make CO2, which will blow the cork out. So you can do one of two things. You can kill the yeast with chemicals, or you can filter it out. This allows us to filter it out. This is absolute state-of-the-art. Every winemaker in the country wants one of these machines. There are people who put these on trucks and drive to wineries to do their filtering for them. And this is ours. I know that it looks a little crazy, but we love it. Another thing I love about this machine, it's 100% American made. Most wine equipment is Italian or German. Have a lot of Italian and German equipment here. Every part of this machine is a U.S. product. It was designed in the U.S. Every actuator, every valve, everything about this machine is a U.S. machine. And so if you have a problem with a breakdown in the middle of a process, you're not calling Stuttgart, you're not calling Rome, you're calling North Carolina. And that makes life a little easier at times. Here at Stonehaus, we've got a couple different bottling options. Some video was shot earlier of our sparkling wine, which is semi-automated pressurized filling. That's only for our sparkling wines. The rest of the wines are bottled on our bottling line. Up until about 6 years ago, we hand bottled everything. I personally washed and labeled every single bottle that left here. We got to the point where a crew of 5 bottling for 9 hours a day, bottling twice a week, could not keep up with the volume. So we invested in a fully automated bottling line. For this, we're looking at around 1,200 cases a day. 3,000 bottles an hour production if possible. We usually run it around 2,000 bottles an hour. But everything is washed, sparged, filled, leveled, vacuum corked, capsuled with spinner or heat shrink, and then labeled. And this labeler, since I told you I labeled everything, is near and dear to my heart. This has the capacity to do 4,000 bottles an hour. And it's got electric eyes. When the bottle comes through, it trips the eye. It measures the bottle and labels so that as the bottle spins through, the labels pop off and it rolls on perfectly front and back as it rolls through. Beautiful thing. All right, where do corks come from? Now, it's a little funny that I'm going to talk about cork, especially when we use synthetic cork, but we have a reason for using synthetic cork. But from a historical standpoint, this is really, really cool. Cork comes from cork trees, mainly grown in Portugal. After 9 years, you'll get the first harvest of cork. And you see how it is super rough, not really good for anything other than making life vests out of it. You wait 9 more years, you get this. Starting to smooth up some, still lots of voids, not a whole lot you can do with that. Wait another 9 years, and you get this. Beautiful slabs of cork. You can strip off 1/3 of the bark from the exterior of the tree, and the tree still lives. They'll strip this bark off with this nice little medieval looking tool. They will cut it into strips, and then they will use a press to punch out the corks one at a time. And then the rest will go into making gaskets, flotation devices, Birkenstock sandals, what have you. But only until recently has this been improved upon, and there's a lot of people who fight with you and say it hasn't been improved upon. Screw caps are here, folks, but they're not sexy. So we'll just have to see where we go. You're wondering, well, Rob, if cork is so cool, why don't you use it? There's a problem with TCH in cork, and it leads to wine tasting corked. And what that means is sort of the smell of musty newspaper. It sort of sucks all the fruit out of it, sort of like Coca-Cola that's gone flat. It's just the pizzazz is gone. It's been varying levels. They've gotten better at controlling it, but we feel at Stonehaus that one bad bottle is more damaging than 100 good bottles, and so we decided to switch over to synthetic. A lot of people also think we switch to synthetic because they think it's cheaper. We pay about twice as much for synthetic cork as we do traditional. All right. A lot of people don't realize that we make dry wines here at Stonehaus. This is our Moonlight Cab. Gina's pouring for us. Now, we call it Moonlight Cab because the first time we did this, we had crusher destemmer issues. You saw the crusher destemmer in the back. It was giving us fits the day we first processed the cab here. And we finished at 2 a.m. by the light of a full harvest moon. So, Moonlight Cab. The grapes for this come out of Lodi, as do the Merlot and our Pinot Gris and our Chardonnay. I think we actually got Chardonnay out of Sonoma a couple of times, but all the grapes in this have come from Lodi. Good color, good clarity, nice and bold. This wine is oak. The Merlot is not. Our bar manager Gina and I constantly have an argument about which is the preferred red here. She is the Merlot girl, and I am the Cab guy, and we do keep score. So, but once again, everybody associates Stonehaus with Muscadine, Blackberry, Davenport Red, which is our big seller. But we really want to have something for everyone when they walk in the front door. We want to have something that appeals to everyone. We believe in less pretension, more fun, and so we have the dries as well. Now, I want to talk about the reason people want to know, well, what about the Muscadine and the Davenport and the Blackberry? What Faye and Jan do exceptionally well is good acidity balance. A lot of people make sweet wines, they keep piling on the sugar, and so you get an icky sweet wine. The sweeter you make a wine, the more acidic backbone you need so it finishes clean and crisp, and that's what we're known for. I'd like to talk a little bit about our Tickled Pink. This was entered in Wines of the South in the sparkling category, which it won, but it's also entered in the overall competition. And in a blind tasting of 472 wines, this was chosen as best of show. So it's pretty, it's fun, critical acclaim, and one other thing, you see all the pink. It was just inevitable. $1 of every bottle of Tickled Pink we sell goes directly to Susan G. Komen. So there's just a lot of cool stuff going on with this bottle. It's a semi-sweet sparkler. It appeals to everyone. It's just a fabulous wine.